to a new episode of Beginner's Mind. Today, again, with another life science get-together recording. Usually it takes hundreds of millions to bring a novel therapeutic or vaccine to the market. So the most pressing question usually is when developing a life science company, where do we get the money from? Especially in basic research and the early stages of product development. Usually in these phases, no institutional investor is willing to take the risk. The risk of failure in early stage development is almost 99.9%. So out of 100 projects, only one reaches the market. For that reason, the European Union has developed an outstanding public funding program. It's called Horizon Europe. Its purpose is to fund the riskiest stages of the development of life science projects, especially those where almost no private investor is willing to invest. How these funding schemes work and what it takes to reach out to world-class scientists, I will cover with two colleagues from the United Kingdom in today's episode. Michael Browne has built and led the Public Grant Funding Office at the UCL for more than 13 years. Now he has started the company Crowdhelix, and he will talk about what Crowdhelix is and how it can support scientists who want to access Horizon Europe. Michael is accompanied by Kimberly Cornfield. She is responsible for raising public grants at the UCL. Welcome to the show. Today, I'm very happy to speak with two colleagues from the United Kingdom. Welcome to the show, Michael Browne.
Well, good afternoon, Christian. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Kimberly Cornfield.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
You're both in the United Kingdom currently. How is life these days in the United Kingdom?
So obviously dominated at the moment by COVID-19 crisis. We're in partial lockdown at the moment, so life is quite unusual, and just trying our best to get on with life as best we can whilst also tackling this challenging time at the moment.
Yeah, good to hear that you are both well. Kimberly, we met a couple of years ago. And when I think back about the time we were working together on various projects, there is one particular thing that sticks in my mind and that I remember quite well. It's the point that Kimberly studied at the University of Santa Claus. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Yes. So when I started my undergraduate studies, you can hear from my accent, I'm not originally from the UK. I'm Canadian. And when I started out my undergraduate studies, I also wanted to live abroad. And at the time, I found a university in the Arctic, which is in Rovaniemi, Finland. And I decided to go on an adventure and do my undergraduate studies and travel. So it is the official home of Santa Claus. And actually from there, I ended up staying to do a postgraduate qualification in project management and met a colleague, a now colleague at University College London. We stayed in touch, and I came out and joined him and Michael Browne in the European office at UCL working on research projects. And there I also continued my postgraduate studies in project management at UCL.
And what is your current role at the UCL?
I'm head of proposal management within our European Research and Innovation Office. So I basically look after sort of the pre-award stage of proposals for the European Union's Horizon 2020 program, which is 80 billion in funding over the last 6 years with one more year to go. And I work with our academics and my team to identify funding opportunities, to build collaborations to access this funding. And a big part of what I do is actually identify new partnerships, in particular with industry as these type of projects require more diverse collaboration. So it's really about connecting research with industry to achieve more impact after the end of the project, getting medical devices, for example, closer to market.
Thank you, Kimberly. Michael, we were introduced by Kimberly also a couple of years ago. And before founding Crowdhelix, you were head of European research and innovation at the UCL. And if I got it right from the internet, it was for more than 13 years.
Yes.
It basically means that every world-class scientist had to pass through your office to get access to the European grant funding. Could you tell us a little bit more about your background, where you're coming from, and how it came that you have built up this massive engine at UCL?
Sure. So, yes, I was at UCL for around 13 years and head of European research and innovation for about 10 years. So my background, so I did a degree in politics and then did a postgrad qualification in politics of the European Union. And then I joined, my first job was at Imperial College for a year, and then I moved to UCL, and then shortly after being at UCL was appointed as head of, it was back then European Research and Development. And then back then we had a team of around three or four people, and then over a period of around 5 or 6 years we built that team up to close to 20 people, using public funding directly and indirectly to offset the capacity. So the services that we were providing at UCL, which were proposal development, project management, and also innovation management services. But I think as the years went on, we started to kind of look at different ways of operating, and then as a new framework program was about to start, which was about 6 or 7 years ago, Horizon 2020, we could see that there was going to be a change in the way that the European Commission was funding collaborative projects, and that there was going to be an increase in focus on innovation and impact. And when we looked at the types of networks that UCL was involved in previously, a lot of these networks were composed mainly of universities and research organizations. And then it was clear that in order for us to continue to be competitive in this area, the nature of these consortiums would have to change, and that we would need to have businesses and end users and innovation actors in our consortiums. And then when we looked around to see what networks and platforms were available that we could use to help to facilitate this, there weren't actually any doing this at that time. So we back then thought we'd start a network which was back then called Vision 2020, and is now today renamed and rebranded as the Crowdhelix platform. And that's where I'm currently working at now full time. So I left my job at UCL after those many years, actually 1 month ago.
Congratulations to that step. It's basically leaving the safe haven and jumping into a startup company, which is quite an amazing journey. Can you tell us a little bit more about Crowdhelix? What exactly is it?
Sure. So Crowdhelix is a network of research organizations and universities and businesses across Europe, and we also have some global organizations as well. So what we do is we profile these organizations and bring them into the network and help them to do collaboration. Our main focus with collaboration is on Horizon 2020. So what we do is we look at the funding opportunities that will be coming through from the European Commission. We identify what these projects are looking to achieve from a policy perspective. And then what we'll do is we will profile the organizations and the people within those organizations who are members within our platform and part of our network. And then we will bring them together to form a consortium to deliver projects that are then funded by the European Commission.
That sounds great and very interesting. And when I was preparing for this call, and also when we started talking a couple of years ago, I always thought, I mean, there are so many service providers on the market who are doing something around the Horizon programs. But there is something, I think, with Crowdhelix that is very unique, Kimberly. It's basically based in the UCL network. So can you tell us a little bit more about how this all evolved in the UCL and what basically contacts you have available?
Yes, so the network has, of course, developed with Michael from out UCL. Me working in UCL, I represent UCL on the platform as one of the main contacts, and so I can support all of our academics across all research fields in identifying opportunities that are flagged with throughout the platform. So it's got a technology platform behind it where we can all post and share potential collaboration opportunities. So it's two-way for us. It's one that if we are looking for partners, we've got access to this huge network where we can reach out to other organizations. Equally, they can share opportunities which could be applicable to a wide variety of researchers across our organization. These types of projects are quite broad in a sense. So it could be that we actually have a more junior researcher that has a skill set, has a knowledge base that would actually fit quite well with an external project. And we can bring them on as experts or lead parts of the project. Yeah.
When I think about, I think one part is you're talking about the Horizon programs.
Yeah.
This is a deep tech funding scheme in Europe, which supports university-based projects, but also projects with a connect to the industry. I think there is one particular item that stands out with Crowdhelix. This is really the huge and massive network that you have, which tremendously helps to build syndicates. Michael, can you tell us a little bit more about the capabilities of Crowdhelix?
Yeah, sure. So, well, our membership consists of more than 500 organizations. These typically fall under three types of category organizations. So we have what we call RTOs, which are research technology organizations. So these are research centers and universities, of which we've got around about 90 members. Then we have around 400 SMEs. And then we have about 20 multinational corporates. We do have other types of organizations like some hospitals and NGOs and so on, but that's the main composition of our network. So that network in itself, I think the last figure that we came, when we did an assessment, we came up with a figure of around about 7.5 billion euros of funding that's been awarded to those organizations under the last 6 years of Horizon 2020. So what we're trying to do is not to create the biggest network, but a quality network, and a network that's winning in Horizon 2020. And we try to go into the organizations to identify the winners and the connectors, and try to build teams around that. And we do that through our technology platform, which is a matchmaking tool where you profile your organization and your organization's capabilities, and people then can register their expertise on the platform. And then we encourage people to use it as an expert or partner searching tool. So if you're doing a project in a particular area as a coordinator, and you're looking for a specific expert in a specific area, you can post it on the platform, and then the platform will generate some suggested matches to suit the post. So it's underpinned by, we've recently launched a recommender engine, which is a tool which we built ourselves in-house. We have our own development team that are constantly improving and developing the platform. And what we're trying to do is make it easier for organizations to find the best partners. We do this increasingly more now through technology, but we also do this through targeted brokerage events as well. So if we do around about 10 to 15 events per year when things are normal, so to speak. And then these will be across various thematic areas, so health, digital, etc., etc. And then what we'll do is we'll identify areas for projects that will be funded by the European Commission. And then we'll use the platform to bring together experts to those events. And then we'll use it as a brokerage and partnering vehicle or tool in person to bring people and build teams.
Yeah, let's play it a little bit through with a practical example, I guess, to exemplify to the listeners. I think when I found a company in the life science industry, usually the question that pops up is, where do I get the money from? Developing anything in life science means the company needs a minimum of 10 to 20 million euros to reach any significant point in time. And I think what stands out in Europe is the Horizon program. I think, Kimberly, you have a lot of experience with the Horizon program. Can you explain a little bit how that works and what life science successes you have supported to raise money via Horizon programs?
Yes, we've so a significant amount of research at UCL is in life and medical sciences. So a lot of the proposals that our team have been working on and projects that we're managing are life and medical sciences under Horizon 2020. Some are earlier stage, but there's more funding trying to help get devices or research to the next stage. Worked with some companies where we've been able to, they're holding the IP, look at, develop, and get to the next phase of clinical trials for a device. So we've been able to partner with the research organizations. So if UCL is leading, we're working with the companies that are looking to further the technologies. We're working with hospitals, and we secure usually about, projects of this size are usually around 6 million to 10 million euros for a project. So to help these technologies progress to the next stage. And then depending on where they're at, you can look at European funding still as future options, or this is where working with networks like yourselves is where we can also take the results of these projects and hopefully connect with other companies or investors or other funding opportunities to take that forward.
So I think one interesting point with the Horizon program is, besides that it's a good funding scheme, is that it supports only syndicates. So basically, when I have an idea, I would call up Kimberly at the UCL, and if that's interesting for one of the scientists in the UCL, we can start thinking about going for a Horizon grant. But two parties are usually not a syndicate. Michael, my question to you is, what could I do as the next step? To form the syndicate?
Sure. So register. So first, we would welcome anyone who's interested in Crowdhelix to register on the platform. And then if they have an idea themselves, a concept or a project, they'd want to really speak to their local expert. So you could speak to someone at Crowdhelix if they want, but maybe if they're local, like if they're at UCL or at the local university, then maybe speak to someone like Kimberly to talk through their idea, and then they can help to develop that and see if it's appropriate and competitive enough. And then that can then be taken forward to see if they can help to build a consortium around that idea. And platforms and networks like Crowdhelix can be used to build that. I think, the challenges that we try to address are that I think when you look at researchers typically, and especially early stage researchers, they tend to lack international networks, and they tend to lack international networks that go into different sectors as well. And Crowdhelix can be used to address that challenge. And then on the flip side, SMEs, whilst they want to build networks with researchers on universities and research organizations on an international scale, they quite often just don't have the time to do that, and they don't know where to go, and it's quite often not a number one priority for them as a business running day to day. So what we're trying to do is address both of those challenges through the network and through the platform. And if a person has an idea, a project idea, if they want to speak to their local EU expert and see if it's appropriate, and then they can use networks and tools like Crowdhelix to help to build consortia.
Yeah, the syndicate and consortia building is really something that takes a whole lot of time. And if I got you right, Crowdhelix is a platform that has already built a network to experts in Europe that facilitates the process. How many experts do you have in your network?
So on the platform itself, we have approaching 4,000 users. And so these are registered experts, but we also have an extended network both within the organizations and outside the organization. What I mean by that is if someone puts a post on there and they see a post looking for a particular expert, and that person knows of someone who can address that need, but that someone isn't registered on the platform, then that opportunity can be referred in. So within the organization or outside of the organization. I think the whole idea behind it is based on the concept of trust, and we're very happy to open these opportunities out as long as they're referred by someone, because that referral was the mechanism by which we're sort of defining the trust, the trust idea.
I will post a link to Crowdhelix in the text to the podcast episode. So let's go a step further. So I have an idea. I called Kimberly. We both came to the conclusion it makes sense to move forward, and we also looked up the Horizon program, which sounds quite interesting, and we found something that we think we can propose to. And then the next step would be to get in touch with Crowdhelix and start forming the consortia via your platform by posting the idea on the platform. And let's also assume that works fine and we get that. I think then comes the most important part. This is the grant writing. Are there any services or anything that your platform provides to facilitate the grant writing process?
Not in-house within Crowdhelix. The grant writing itself is normally done by the coordinator, and so that's typically led by the research organisation. So in that case, it will be someone like Kimberly at UCL or her counterparts at other organisations that will be helping to facilitate that.
Kimberly, how would it work with the UCL?
So if we were in touch, say you've got a company and I've got a researcher, and there's an idea, we would assess it to see if it's viable for a Horizon 2020 call. We would work with a network like Crowdhelix or like yours to source the other partners that we might need that aren't in the existing network of our academic and your business. And with UCL's involvement, and it's a collaborative project, then my team and I can help in the whole preparation of the grant. So we're basically an in-house consultancy where we work to improve the chances of success that this research gets funded. And so that's sort of the front end side of things where I work on. And we also have a project management unit where we can help deliver the entire project. So we really take from very early concept stage, my team and I, and partnership developing with a network like Crowdhelix and yours. And we try to bring the project through delivery and more focusing on the innovation side and the impact in those industrial partners and bringing them on right from the beginning.
This is very helpful when I think about companies. Usually investors like investing in companies. So the first step is taking a patent and a team from the university into a corporate shell. And then this makes the investors investing. But the teams in these corporate shells are usually small teams who are already overwhelmed with daily business and moving the project forward. So what you are offering that you can take over grant writing, I think is very helpful. How can this an SME in this game also benefit from the capabilities of Crowdhelix and your team, Kimberly, at the UCL, when it comes to the time after winning a grant? Because I think there's also a lot of reporting that needs to be done, follow-up with the European Union. How does that look like in reality?
There's specific mechanisms for SMEs to apply for what's called SME funding, and it's not so much on a collaborative scale as what I'm working in, and Michael can maybe speak a bit more to that. But with collaborative fundings, and if we've got UCL involved, then we can support We support all partners in the projects, but we do take special note of our SME partners involved because it's quite often we've got a huge infrastructure to support these types of collaborations where we recognize our SME partners don't usually have the same capacity. So we try to help as best we can to coordinate it. We specialize in understanding the EU rules, regulations, how these run, so that we can make it as limited as possible in terms of extra work or administration for our partners.
That's great, Michael.
Yeah, so just to follow on from that, I think when you look at the way Horizon 2020 is designed and also what the Commission's thinking is for the next framework program, which starts next year, Horizon Europe, the collaborative components of this are very much designed, towards high levels of TRLs, very much focused on innovation, less about research. So by the very nature of the design, the projects are very much focused towards businesses, towards SMEs, closer to market actors. The challenge is that these organizations are quite often don't have the capacity and capabilities to be able to do these grants on their own because they're a lot of work. They're very complex. They don't have their own research support offices like, for example, UCL would have. So whereas Kimberly and her team have the expertise, have the track record of doing this. So by working in tandem, that can sometimes the front end support that Kimberly and her team and research support offices across Europe can provide within universities can help to support bids that are being developed by SMEs, with SMEs taking a leading role, but with maybe some of the sort of heavy lifting, so to speak, is done by research organizations that have the in-house capabilities to do that.
This is very helpful because, you mentioned Horizon Europe is more emphasizing the development part, not so much the research part like it was in the past. And I think one key to success in winning Horizon Europe grants will be the grant writing still. Can you tell us a little bit more, Kimberly and Michael, about the design of the Horizon Europe program?
Yeah, sure. It's very similar to Horizon 2020. You'll have these the big thematic challenge areas like climate and health, and the funding allocated to this will be at the moment being proposed in the region of around about 100 billion euros. And what's being proposed is about 2/3 of that will be going towards collaborative research projects. So there will be a lot of opportunity for this. I think the design in itself, the approach, the systems will be very, very similar to what we have with Horizon 2020. I think the Commission have decided not to revolutionize that part of the process, unlike previous transitions. So they just kind of an incremental step into a new program. So the design, the approach, the setup will be very, very similar. There'll be a kind of a slight realignment in terms of priority areas, but they will be effectively the same, funding the same types of activities. I think there will be continued focus on innovation and projects that are closer to market. And I think the Commission will want to see. So whereas before, if you go back 5-10 years ago, projects were doing very much early stage research and development, and that maybe the end of the project you'd be at maybe TRL 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then when the funding ran out, a lot of the IP and knowledge that was created, unless there was follow-on funding, would then just effectively sit on the shelf and not very much impact at all. Whereas the Commission now have moved the inception points for projects higher and higher, and I think for Horizon Europe it's going to be even higher. So I think the expectation is that by the end of projects, they will want to see, commercialization, stuff going to market, and sort of real economic and social impact being demonstrated.
Yeah, this is always an interesting challenge to take out a patent and an idea from the basic research bench and bring it to the development bench of a company. I think these are completely different worlds. Kimberly, can you tell us a little bit about how that works in the UCL?
Yeah, with respect to what we're developing in collaborative projects, it's something it's a really important piece of how these projects come together. Not only because the commission's requiring it, but we want to get these projects, to continue once they've officially funded with commission funding. So now what we're doing is we're working with experts from an early stage in proposals and helping design the exploitation of these research projects from the beginning, and having the right actors on board in order to plan from the beginning, and have a process throughout the proposal that our academic colleagues are getting connected with the right actors, with the right support, because we recognize it's very different. Once we've got the patent filed, and how do we go from there?
Yeah. I think this tech transfer is worth another episode. So it's quite interesting. It's quite an interesting part. We currently have, I think, a huge challenge worldwide. And this is the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, and its connected illness, COVID-19. So currently we don't have, I think, any medication on the market, neither a vaccine. I heard today that the Gilead project seems to develop quite well. And from China, I read that soon a vaccine should go into clinical phase 2 testing. Do you have any activities in Crowdhelix, Michael, or at the UCL, Kimberly, that's related to the actual challenges we have?
Yes, just in response to that. So just over a month ago, so the way Crowdhelix is structured underneath the network and platform is around clusters, which we call helixes. So these are virtual technology clusters within the platform, and we have 22 of these live at the moment, from health to climate and other areas. But a month ago, in response to the challenge, we launched a COVID-19 helix, and we made this completely free and open for people to use. And we made it a global. We approached it on a global scale as well. So I think since then we've had around 250 new users from all over the world that have subscribed to the Helix. We've had around, I think, 35 different posts look for partners, looking for collaborators. So there was just one actually this morning where we've had the University of Ottawa in Canada, who is looking for an SME that's now been connected to in London, that focuses on molecular design, is using AI and quantum technology techniques in molecular design. So that's one example of matching in this area. And I think for us now, we're continuing to sort of promote and grow that Helix going forward, and trying to make it as we're just in the process of starting to track and capture the outcomes that have been generated over the last month from those 35 posts that have been issued.
Do you have a special focus on digital health or therapeutics or vaccines, or is it open to anybody?
It's completely open. So from virology to mechanical engineering to policy, it's completely open, and it's completely open to corporations and universities, research organisations from all over the world. Mm-hmm. So we've had organisations that have joined from Canada to Japan. We've also had a few organisations join from Africa as well.
Mm-hmm. Is there any special focus from the European Union that you're currently aware of when somebody signs up at Crowdhelix and looking for partners? Are there any special funding opportunities available right now?
Yeah, lots from all areas. So there's health calls that are being currently that are closing in about a month's time. But I think realistically, if people are looking for new opportunities, the next set of calls will be at the end of the summer, or end of August, early September. So these will be in areas around ICT, cybersecurity, and some sub areas of health as well.
Mm-hmm. Kimberly, how is UCL involved with the current COVID-19 research when it comes to grant funding? Is there any special activity?
Yeah, we have a significant involvement now with researchers from life and medical sciences, but also across policy, social sciences. So we actually have a hub on our web pages which is outlining significant activity. Our experts also are advising governments on how to respond to this. So lots of activity and funding as well. And it's great to be able to, this is a shared problem that we all want to resolve, and having, our, research very open about what we're working on as always, but also being able to access things like this Helix, where the possibility to extend the connections internationally is fantastic.
That's great. So basically any company within the network of this podcast could register at Crowdhelix for free if the company intends to contribute to the current COVID-19 challenge. If I got that right, Michael.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's correct.
Is Crowdhelix generally for free, or do you also have for the services you provide and the connections? I mean, how do you finance Crowdhelix?
So our business model. So we're an SME. We're based in the UK and also in Ireland as well. And our business model is our core business model is subscription based. Mm-hmm. So organisations pay an annual subscription fee to get access and participate, to get access to the network and also the platform. So our universities have one model, and we have another model for corporations, and a separate funding price for SMEs as well. But what we do for if you're a startup and or if you're linked to a spin out from one of our university members, we would be willing to consider participation in the platform for free.
Mm-hmm. What about the companies? I can imagine that the listed companies, especially the bigger ones. I mean, when I think about life science, names pop up like Gilead or Pfizer, or also Boehringer Ingelheim, which is a German company, or Bayer. And I think these companies very often have challenges in-house, but not the personnel in-house that can solve the challenges. I mean, basically, I think about writing a paper, doing a small study by a postdoc or a PhD student or a master student. Is there any possibility to access PhDs or postdocs or master students or bachelor students via Crowdhelix in a more efficient way than ringing all universities of the world through?
Yeah, sure. So we do this separately as well for some of our corporate members. So just give you one example with Coca-Cola, who is one of our members. So they had identified a challenge in the area of biodegradable materials, and they wanted to use the network to see if researchers and PhD students could address that challenge that would align with what their needs are. So we set up an innovation investment prize scheme where we did a call to action, effectively a call for proposal across the network, and we had a significant amount of interest in that, sort of high response rate from across the network. And then Crowdhelix would then collate these, filter them, and then present them to Coca-Cola. And then Coca-Cola, we would then run basically an investment day where the ideas that were picked and selected as potentials would come, and they would pitch their idea to Coca-Cola, and then Coca-Cola would then potentially invest in one or more of those ideas.
Okay, that's great. Sounds like it's like a start of an incubation program.
Yes, exactly.
Kimberly, how would it be when companies address directly you at the UCL? Is this also something the UCL is doing?
So if anyone's interested at UCL, we've got a number of parts across the university that might be supporting this type of activity. But I'm always open for companies to contact me, and I can help them navigate through the university to get in touch with the right people, so that moves forward more efficiently.
Mm-hmm. When we come back to grant funding and the coming year, so Horizon Europe is coming up. what advice is, I think, the last question of the podcast. Michael, what advice or recommendation would you, when it comes to the Horizon European program?
To who? To SMEs?
To SMEs, yes.
Network with organizations who have a track record in this. Try not to do the heavy lifting on your own. Try and start, if you're doing it to begin with, do it as a partner, as part of a network, and then sort of build your capabilities that way. I think leading a project to begin with is a lot of work and a lot of resource, and something I wouldn't advise any organization, whether a research center, sort of a researcher in a research organization or an SME, to do for the first time. I think being a partner is always the best way. Being connected in platforms and networks like Crowdhelix, so making yourself more visible and using technology to enable that as well. So if any of your listeners or extended listeners want to register and profile themselves on Crowdhelix, they're very happy to contact me or register directly on the platform itself.
Super. I will leave your contact data in the description to the podcast. Kimberly, what is your advice to SMEs when company owners or investors in SMEs in life science consider participating in the Horizon Europe program?
So mine, it would be similar to Michael's, with an addition of knowing that it is really competitive for the funding. So speaking with teams like mine that can help assess the idea that you have and how well it fits the program, I think can be very beneficial, because it's a lot of work that goes into this. So, connecting with grant writers like my team can be very helpful to make sure that you're actually finding the right opportunities for yourself, and you're finding identifying everything that you need, and looking at the process ahead of time, and also making sure that when we're planning that longer term, that is really aligning to the business itself, so that if you're getting involved as a partner, that really meets kind of your business objectives as well, because the project go on for a little while, and it's competitive to get the funding, but when you get all the different components there, these can be great opportunities to bring funding into your business and help, with our researchers and really getting these things to market, which I think is very exciting.
Kimberly, Michael, thank you very much for your time. It's always a huge pleasure working together with you both. And I believe, Michael, what you are building with Crowdhelix is amazing. I think you have one of the most relevant networks when it comes to European grant funding and connecting universities and SMEs in Europe. And also, Kimberly, your expertise that I have seen in many projects already is outstanding. So I'm looking forward to stay in touch and hear more of you in future. Thanks, Christian.
Thanks very much, Christian. It's a pleasure always to work with you and your network.
Thank you, Christian. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please share the podcast and make sure you've subscribed. Have a great day.